The stars were unusually quiet that night. No ships traveled between the outer colonies, no lights blinked in the dark void, and the silence felt heavy, like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. On the burnt planet of Krythos, nothing moved except the wind, and even it seemed afraid. High above the blackened mountains a shadow passed. It was huge, far larger than any starship, larger than any weapon the humans had built. Its wings spanned miles and its scales glittered like molten metal. The galaxy had many stories of this creature, but few dared speak them aloud. His name was Varkaval the Ash Eternal, the dragon that had destroyed fleets, shattered colonies and silenced planets. Empires trembled at the mention of his name. Traders would pay fortunes for a map to avoid him. Soldiers whispered of his roar, which could crack moons, and of the fire he could summon, which could melt iron and stone in seconds. Tonight he moved slowly across his domain, circling the jagged peaks. His eyes, like burning amber, scanned the horizon. There was something stirring down in the valley, a faint light flickering in the darkness. Varkaval's nostrils flared. The scent of humans reached him, and for the first time in centuries, his interest was caught. Below, a small transport ship had crashed among the rocks. Smoke curled into the sky and its hull was broken. Inside, a group of human refugees huddled together, terrified and trembling. Their weapons were useless here. No gun could reach the dragon without vaporizing first. Most of them had heard the legends and knew death was near. They had fled from war, from alien fleets that had destroyed their colonies, and now it seemed there was no escape at all. Yet in the middle of the group stood a small girl. She was no older than 12, her hair pale as the moonlight, her eyes wide but calm. Her name was Elira Voss, and unlike the others she did not cry or shake. She looked up at the dark silhouette moving across the sky, and instead of fear, a strange curiosity filled her. "Stay behind me," she said quietly, though her voice carried a strength that startled the soldiers. One of the men stepped forward, ready to push her back. "Girl, this is not your fight." "Run," he shouted, but she shook her head. "I'm not running," she said. "He won't hurt me." The soldiers stared at her, bewildered. No one knew why she said it. No one knew what made her so brave. Even as the dragon descended, landing with a crash that shook the mountains, Elira's gaze did not falter. Dust and stones flew in every direction as Varkaval's massive claws dug into the rocky ground. His eyes were like fire pits, watching, waiting. His mouth opened slightly, revealing teeth that could crush a building, yet he made no move to strike. The humans panicked. Some fell to the ground, others screamed, their weapons shaking in their hands. But the girl stepped forward. Slowly, carefully, she approached the dragon. Her small feet made no sound on the cracked earth. Her voice, calm and soft, reached the giant creature. "Grandfather," she said. The word echoed in the valley. The soldiers froze. The dragon's head tilted, a deep rumble vibrating from his chest. His eyes narrowed, confused. The word meant nothing in the language of dragons or humans. It was simple, childish, yet somehow familiar. Varkaval studied her. He had not heard that word in centuries. He had forgotten it almost entirely, yet something deep inside stirred. Memories long buried flickered in his mind. A human woman long ago had once called him that word. She had fed him when the galaxy hunted him. She had touched his scales without fear. The memory made his chest ache, a sensation he had thought lost forever. The humans watched in horror. Their fiercest enemy was not attacking, but simply looking at the girl, something in his gaze softening with every breath. Soldiers whispered, How is this possible?" One of them raised a blaster, trembling, ready to shoot, but the moment the weapon moved, the dragon roared, not in anger but in warning. The sound froze the human in place. It shook the mountains, rattled the air, and yet it did not touch the girl. Elira did not move. She looked into his eyes. "It's okay," she said. "I know you. I know you're not alone." Something inside the dragon shifted. He had lived thousands of years, had seen countless battles, had destroyed every enemy in his path, yet never had he been met with calm like this. He lowered his massive head slightly as if bowing to her. The humans could not breathe. They had never imagined that the terror of the galaxy could be stopped with a single child's voice. Varkaval's tail thumped the ground, shaking stones loose, yet he did not strike. He sniffed the air, cautious, curious. The smell of humans had always meant food or enemy, but this girl was different. He could feel it. He could not explain it, but some ancient instinct whispered that she was safe. For hours the dragon watched. The humans stayed quiet, unable to comprehend what was happening. Elira spoke softly, telling him her name, telling him she was lost, telling him that she needed help. She did not demand, she did not beg, she simply spoke. The dragon listened. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he relaxed. The smoke of his anger faded, the heat of his fire dimmed, and for the first time in centuries, Varkaval the Ash Eternal made no move to destroy. By the time the twin moons rose, the humans were still alive. The dragon had not attacked. Varkaval curled slightly, his massive wings folding around him, guarding the girl instead of striking. The galaxy had never seen this. The creature feared by thousands, the destroyer of worlds, had been calmed, not by weapons, not by cunning, but by the voice of a human child. And Elira, staring up at the dragon, understood something that no one else did. She understood that fear could not touch the heart of those who knew how to see. And that sometimes, even the fiercest monsters needed someone to remember their name. The stars twinkled quietly above, and in that silence, a new story began. The galaxy would tremble at Varkaval's name for centuries, but now some would speak of him differently, not as a terror, but as a guardian waiting for the one who could call him family. The wind on Krythos had calmed, but the tension did not leave the valley. Humans huddled together, their eyes wide and fearful, while the dragon loomed over them like a living mountain. His amber eyes glowed in the dim light of the twin moons, and each slow breath shook the cracked ground beneath them. Yet the girl Elira Voss did not move. She looked up at him, her gaze steady, her small hands folded in front of her. No one knew what to do. The soldiers who had fled from alien war now found themselves frozen. The dragon was alive, massive, powerful, and for once he was calm. But calm did not mean safe. Anyone who moved too quickly or spoke too loudly could still be crushed or burned. Everyone feared the sound of his breath, the brush of his scales, the thought of the fire in his throat. And yet Elira seemed unafraid. She stepped forward carefully, her voice soft but clear. "Grandfather," she said again. The word echoed in the valley. It was simple, childish, almost meaningless to any ordinary human, but for the dragon, it struck like a hammer. Varkaval froze. His head tilted slightly. A low rumble rose in his chest, vibrating through the rocks and air. The sound was neither roar nor growl, it was something between recognition and surprise, something long buried awakening inside him. The humans gasped. One soldier whispered, Did she just call him grandfather? Another shook his head in disbelief. Impossible. There's no way. He doesn't belong to anyone. He's a destroyer. But Varkaval did not roar. He did not attack. He simply stared at the girl, his eyes narrowing, his mind stirring. Memories he had thought long lost surfaced, bright and sharp. A human woman from centuries ago had called him that same word. She had been small, fragile, and fearless. She had touched his scales without fear, had spoken to him as if he were a friend, not a monster. That woman had cared for him when the galaxy wanted him dead. The memory was like a fire in his chest, a warmth he had not felt in 1,000 years. Elira stepped closer. She reached her small hand toward him, not in command, not in fear, but in trust. The soldiers froze, unsure whether to stop her. "Do not touch it," one hissed. "She'll die." But she did not falter. Her fingers hovered over the edge of his massive claw. The dragon blinked slowly. He did not move. His tail, which had crushed ships before, thumped softly against the ground, almost like a question. His wings twitched slightly, not in threat, but in attention. He sniffed the air around her, inhaling her scent, the faint traces of human life, warmth, and innocence. Then, he leaned his great head closer, careful not to strike, and studied her face. "Grandfather," she said again. This time her voice was stronger. There was no fear, only certainty. The word carried meaning, though no one else could understand it. It was not about age or blood, it was about connection, about remembering, about seeing someone for who they truly were. Varkaval's rumble grew softer, almost a purr, though it echoed through the mountains like a distant storm. The soldiers whispered among themselves. How can she do that? He kills planets. He's fire and death." A captain shook his head. "No human could ever." He stopped because the truth was staring at him. The dragon was listening. The dragon was not attacking. The dragon was waiting. Elira did not speak again for several moments. She simply looked into his glowing eyes. She saw the pain, the loneliness, the centuries of fear and rage that no weapon could destroy. She saw the part of him that remembered kindness, that remembered trust. She saw the dragon that had once been more than a weapon, more than a terror. She saw him as he truly was. Slowly, Varkaval lowered his massive head closer to her. The ground trembled with each movement, but he moved with care. The human stepped back instinctively, unsure whether to flee or watch. Dust and small stones fell from his scales, glinting in the moonlight. He sniffed her hand. His breath was hot but controlled. No flame escaped. Elira reached forward and gently placed her hand on his snout. Her fingers were tiny against the massive scales, yet she did not hesitate. The dragon inhaled slowly, and for a moment, it seemed as if time itself had stopped. Even the wind held its breath. Then the dragon rumbled, a sound that resonated deep inside every human who heard it. It was not a roar, not a threat, not a declaration of power. It was recognition. It was something old, buried under centuries of fire and rage, finally remembered. "Grandfather," Elira whispered again, softly, almost like a prayer. Varkavel's eyes softened, the glow dimming to a warm amber. He lowered his head even more, allowing her to touch the scales along his jaw. The soldiers could not believe what they were seeing. The fiercest dragon in the galaxy, feared across star systems, feared by empires and fleets, was letting a human child touch him. And he was not angry. He was listening. The girl smiled faintly. "You don't have to be alone," she said. "I know what they did to you. I know what they made you do. But it's okay. You're not alone anymore." Something shifted inside Varkavel. He had destroyed ships, burnt cities, and crushed armies, but no one had ever spoken to him like this. He had been feared, hated, and hunted, but never had anyone seen him, truly seen him. His massive body relaxed slightly. His wings folded closer, not in defense but in rest. His tail stopped thumping. The valley was quiet, except for the small sounds of the human child and the dragon breathing together. The humans could not speak. They dared not move. For the first time they saw a dragon not as a monster, but as a being capable of trust and memory. And the girl, small, fragile human, was the one to awaken it. Varkavel lowered his head fully, resting it near her, careful not to crush her. Elira reached out and touched his eye gently. The dragon blinked. The gesture was simple yet profound. It spoke more than words could. It said without a single sound, "I remember. I know. I will protect." The stars above twinkled silently, and in the quiet, the humans began to understand something impossible. The galaxy's fiercest dragon could be calmed, not with weapons, not with fear, but with trust and recognition. And one human child had done what no fleet or army could ever hope to do. Elira stood there, her small hand on the dragon's massive snout, and whispered again, "Grandfather." And the dragon listened. The valley was quiet, but it was no longer empty. Varkavel the Ash Eternal had curled slightly, massive wings tucked close, his eyes fixed on the small human girl. She moved carefully around him, her eyes calm, her hands gentle. For the first time in centuries, the dragon felt curiosity instead of rage, trust instead of fear. Elira had questions. She wanted to know why the galaxy feared him so much. She wanted to know why he had destroyed fleets and cities, why no one had ever tried to understand him. But the dragon did not speak in words humans could hear. His rumbles and growls were deep, old, like echoes of the universe itself. She did not need translation. Somehow she could understand him. "You're not a monster," she said softly, brushing her fingers along the rough edge of his scale. "You're like the stories my grandmother told. You protect, you remember, you care." The dragon shifted slightly. His massive head lowered so her hand could rest safely against it. Memories stirred again, old and sharp. He remembered a human woman centuries ago, long before empires had reached the stars, who had called him family. She had been small, fragile, fearless, and she had fed him when the galaxy wanted him dead. He had felt something then that he had thought lost forever. Trust. Elira's voice was calm. "I think it's in my blood. My family always knew dragons. They always remembered you. I think that's why I can be here. I'm like them, grandfather. I'm like the humans you once trusted." The dragon's eyes glowed brighter. It was a wordless connection, a link centuries old. The humans around them whispered among themselves, confused and fearful. How could this child speak to a dragon in a way no one else could? How could she make the deadliest being in the galaxy listen without fear? Elira did not answer. Instead, she knelt on the cracked ground and examined the scorch marks and broken rocks of the valley. "They will come," she said finally. "Aliens, fleets, everyone who wants to use me or use you. They will try to take what we have." The dragon rumbled deeply, a sound that shook the air but carried no threat. It was warning and question together. He lowered his head again as if asking her what to do. "I'll protect them," she said, pointing to the humans. "But I will not let them control me. You cannot fight them alone, grandfather. You are strong, yes. But together, we are stronger." Varkavel's tail shifted. His claws dug into the rocks. His wings twitched, preparing ready. He could feel the danger before it arrived, sensing the ripple of alien fleets moving through space. For centuries he had fought alone. Empires had sent ships to destroy him, and he had burned them without mercy. But now something new had entered his world, a human who did not fear him, who trusted him, who called him family. The humans watched, unsure if they should flee or fight. They had fled from wars, from alien empires, from fleets that destroyed entire planets. Now they were here, trapped in a valley with the galaxy's fiercest dragon. Yet for the first time some of them felt hope. If this small human girl could calm the dragon, maybe survival was possible. Maybe the impossible could happen. As the twin moons climbed higher in the sky, the first enemy scouts appeared. Small ships, fast and armed, had tracked the transport that had crashed. They were searching for Alira. Their weapons glimmered in the distance. The humans froze, expecting fire, destruction, death. But Varkaval did not roar. He did not attack yet. He simply watched. Alira rose slowly, her eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. "Grandfather," she said softly, "they will try to take me, but we can stop them. Together." The dragon's wings spread slowly, enormous shadows stretching over the valley. The humans gasped. Varkaval did not roar. He did not burn. He simply moved, circling to protect the girl. The fleet saw him, and for a moment they hesitated. They had heard the stories. They had been warned. But they had never expected to see the dragon move with a human child beside him. Alira stepped forward, small but steady. "I will not be your weapon," she said. "I will not let you use me, and you will not fight alone. We choose this together." The dragon shifted his massive head closer to her, a gesture of understanding. He could not speak in words, but he could feel her intent. Humans had always tried to control dragons, to fight them, to hunt them. But she was different. She did not demand obedience. She did not seek to conquer. She offered connection. She offered trust. And that trust was something the galaxy had forgotten. The bond between humans and dragons, long lost, almost erased from history. From above, the enemy fleet adjusted their course. They did not understand what they were facing. One ship sent a warning pulse, scanning for life signs. Varkaval responded with a low rumble, a wave of energy that made the instruments fail. Communications jammed. The fleet could not read the valley. They could not predict the dragon. And the humans, led by a small girl, were safe in the shadow of a being no one else could control. Alira's hand rested lightly on Varkaval's claw. "They don't know," she whispered. "They don't know what humans can do. But we remember. We remember the old bonds. We remember the blood the stars forgot." The dragon's amber eyes glowed brighter. He lowered his massive head, brushing the girl's shoulder with a gentle nudge. No human had ever been allowed so close. No human had ever spoken to him like this. And now together they would face what was coming, not as predator and prey but as allies. The valley held its breath. The fleet above adjusted its course. The stars watched silently. And for the first time in centuries Varkaval felt something new. Not fear, not rage, but connection. The galaxy had always known humans as fragile, weak, and powerless. But here, in the shadow of the fiercest dragon, a small girl and the Ash Eternal proved that humans could remember what others had forgotten. They could protect, they could bond, and they could change the course of history. And Alira, standing with her hand on his claw, smiled faintly. The stars may have forgotten the old bonds, the galaxy may have feared the dragon, but she remembered. And together they would not be forgotten. The sky above Krythos was alive with movement. Alien ships, sleek and black, appeared on the horizon, scanning for life below. Their weapons glimmered in the moonlight, ready to strike. The humans froze. They had fled wars, they had run from empires, and now the galaxy's deadliest dragon had chosen to protect them. But even he could not fight all these ships alone. Alira stood beside Varkaval. Her small hand rested on his massive claw. "They will try to take me," she whispered. "They will try to use us both. But we are not afraid." The dragon rumbled deeply, a sound that shook the valley and the stars above. It was more than warning. It was focus, attention, and power rolled into one. The humans stepped back, watching as Varkaval rose slowly on his powerful legs, wings spreading wide. The shadow of the dragon stretched over the valley like a moving mountain, covering everything below. Even the approaching fleet faltered. They had heard legends of Varkaval, of his fire, of his wrath, but nothing could have prepared them for this moment. Alira's voice carried over the valley. "We do not want to fight," she called. "But we will protect ourselves." Her words were small but steady. There was no fear, no panic, only certainty. The alien ships opened fire. Beams of energy ripped across the valley, tearing the cracked rocks and scattering dust into the air. Varkaval moved like liquid fire, dodging, twisting, his massive claws smashing the ground as he redirected blasts harmlessly into the mountains. The humans huddled, astonished at his speed. No human weapon could touch him. No ship could harm him. And still he did not attack the people he had chosen to protect. One of the soldiers whispered, How can this be? They're supposed to be prey. She is supposed to be helpless. She's not helpless, another said. She's human. Elira reached up and touched Varkaval's snout, and the dragon lowered his massive head slightly in response. In that instant, the humans saw something impossible. The galaxy's fiercest dragon was bowing, not to the ships, not to fear, not to any command, but to a human child. Varkaval rumbled, deep and long, the sound shaking even the approaching fleet. Energy crackled along his scales, faint sparks dancing over his massive wings. But his eyes never left Elira. He waited, listening, following her intent. She did not order him. She did not command him. She simply trusted him, and that trust was enough to hold back centuries of fire and rage. The alien ships hesitated. Their sensors detected the dragon's power, yet the girl's presence seemed to calm him. For the first time they saw that fear alone could not control this creature. They did not understand the bond forming below, the connection that had awakened something long forgotten in the dragon. A strike came too close. One ship fired a beam that ripped through a nearby cliff. Varkaval shifted instantly, moving in front of the humans. The beam glanced off his scales harmlessly, but the dragon did not attack the ship. He simply prepared, ready to defend without harming, ready to protect the girl who had called him family. Elira spoke again. "Grandfather," she said softly, "they do not know us. They do not understand. But we do. We are together." The dragon's rumble softened into a low vibration, a sound almost like a purr. He shifted his massive wings, covering the humans fully, creating a moving shield. The alien fleet could see the humans but they could not touch them. Varkaval moved, large enough to block any attack, careful not to crush or burn. One of the soldiers gasped. It's like he's protecting her. Not attacking. Not destroying. Just protecting." "Yes," another whispered. "That's what humans do. They see more than fear. They see trust." The fleet did not retreat but they could not advance either. The dragon's presence alone created a zone no one dared enter. And Elira, small, fragile, human, stood without fear. She did not wave weapons or shout threats. She simply stood, holding Varkaval's claw and watched. Time seemed to stretch. The dragon's amber eyes never left her. Each beat of his massive heart sent vibrations through the valley, and the humans felt the rhythm of his power. They realized that Varkaval could have destroyed them all, yet he had chosen restraint. Not obedience. Not fear. He had chosen connection. Finally, the dragon lowered his head fully, brushing Elira's shoulder gently with his massive snout. The gesture was subtle, but for those watching it was monumental. A bow, not of submission, not of weakness, but of recognition. The humans gasped. The fleet hesitated. The galaxy had never seen such a thing. Elira smiled faintly. "See," she whispered. "He trusts us. He will fight with us, not against us. We are not alone." Varkaval rumbled once more, low and steady, a sound that carried across the valley and into the stars. It was a sound that spoke of loyalty, of protection, of ancient bonds remembered. The humans felt hope bloom where there had only been fear. The alien fleet adjusted their formation. They did not understand what they faced. They had expected a fight of fire and destruction, but instead they saw a dragon bow, not in fear but in trust, to a human child. They had underestimated the power of humans and the strength of bonds that even centuries of war could not erase. Elira raised her hand slightly. "We choose to protect ourselves. But we choose together. We are not enemies. We are family." Varkaval's massive body shifted, moving to stand fully beside her. His wings stretched wide, his tail coiled like a living wall. And the humans saw it clearly, the dragon had chosen. He would not fight blindly. He would not burn without reason. He had recognized something that had been lost across the stars, the strength of human courage, the power of trust, and the bond that even the fiercest beings could not ignore. The fleet hesitated, unsure. The humans looked at each other, realizing that their survival did not depend on weapons or numbers, but on something far older. A dragon could destroy fleets, burn planets, and crush empires, but humans could awaken what even fire and death could not erase: loyalty, courage, and connection. Elira stood tall, small but unyielding. Varkaval bowed his massive head slightly, not in fear, not in submission, but in understanding. And in that moment the galaxy changed. The humans realized that legends were not just stories of fear, they were stories of what humans could awaken, even in the fiercest of creatures. The stars twinkled quietly above. Varkaval remained, massive and powerful, but calm beside the girl. And for the first time in centuries he was no longer alone. The valley was quiet now, but the tension had not disappeared. The alien fleet lingered on the horizon, unsure how to respond. Their scanners were confused. Their weapons could not reach the humans hidden beneath Varkaval's massive wings. For the first time the galaxy's deadliest dragon was not attacking, not destroying, not hunting. He was protecting. Elira stood beside him, small but steady. She could feel the power radiating from him, the centuries of fire, rage, and memory tempered by trust. The soldiers who had survived the crash watched in awe. Their fear was replaced by hope. For centuries humans had been seen as fragile, weak, and powerless. But here, in the shadow of Varkaval the Ash Eternal, humans were more than survivors. They were partners, allies, and a force even the galaxy could not ignore. Elira raised her hand slightly, speaking softly, but with a voice that carried across the valley. "We do not fight to destroy," she said. "We fight to protect. We do not conquer with fire. We conquer with courage, with trust, with understanding." The dragon rumbled in response, a deep, steady vibration that shook the ground and stirred the hearts of every human nearby. It was a sound that spoke of loyalty, of guardianship, of a bond older than empires. For the soldiers, it was both terrifying and inspiring. For the alien fleet above, it was a warning. The enemy hesitated, unsure whether to attack. They had counted on humans being weak, but now they saw the truth. Humans could awaken what no fleet, no weapon, and no empire could control. They could inspire trust in the fiercest creature alive. They could turn terror into protection. Elira touched the dragon's claw gently. "You see," she said, "we do not need to fight alone. And we do not need to destroy to survive. You protect me. I protect them. Together we are stronger than fear itself." Varkaval lowered his massive head once more, brushing his snout lightly against her shoulder. The gesture was simple, but for all who watched, it carried the weight of centuries. It was a promise. A declaration. A lesson for the galaxy. Even the fiercest beings could bow, not to power, not to weapons, but to trust, courage, and connection. The humans slowly rose, encouraged by the dragon's restraint and the girl's bravery. They understood now that survival did not depend on guns or ships alone. It depended on courage, understanding, and the bonds that could awaken strength beyond imagination. One soldier stepped forward, looking up at Varkaval. I never thought I would see this. The dragon, he listens. He obeys, because of her. Not fear. Not force. Trust. Elira nodded. "Yes," she said softly. "Humans are small. We are fragile. But we remember. We remember the bonds the galaxy forgot. We remember what matters. And we can awaken what others think is lost." The alien fleet, realizing their attack would fail, slowly began to retreat. Their commanders had never seen such a sight. The galaxy's deadliest dragon, feared across worlds, standing beside a human child and choosing protection over destruction. They did not understand it, but they respected it. For the first time humans and dragons were not just survivors, they were forces no one could underestimate. As the fleet disappeared into the distance, the valley seemed to exhale. Varkaval settled beside Elira, his wings folding gently around the humans. The soldiers looked at the dragon, astonished. They had survived not because of firepower, not because of strategy, but because a small human girl had remembered something the galaxy had forgotten: the power of trust, courage, and connection. Elira looked at the humans who had been stranded with her. "We can rebuild," she said. "We can be brave. We can protect each other." The dragon rumbled once more, a deep, steady sound that seemed almost like a song. The humans felt it in their bones, in their hearts. They had witnessed something extraordinary. They had learned a lesson the galaxy would never forget. Varkaval looked at the stars above, then down at the humans. In his long life he had destroyed empires, burned cities, and crushed fleets. But he had never felt pride or hope like he felt now. He had found something more powerful than fire. He had found connection. He had found family. Elira smiled faintly. "The galaxy will learn," she whispered. "It will see that humans are more than they appear. That even the smallest, weakest beings can awaken what seems impossible. That courage and trust are stronger than fear and war." The humans nodded. They understood now. The galaxy might fear dragons, might fear power, might fear destruction. But humans had something the galaxy could never take: memory, courage, and the ability to see the heart of even the fiercest being. As the twin moons rose higher, casting light across the valley, Varkaval lowered his massive head to Alira's shoulder one last time. The gesture was gentle, protective, and full of respect. It was a bond forged not in battle but in understanding. Not in fear but in trust. And for all who watched, the lesson was clear. The galaxy had underestimated humans for too long. They had underestimated what humans could awaken, protect, and remember. They had underestimated the courage in one small girl who called a dragon grandfather. The stars above twinkled silently, watching the valley below. The humans stood with the dragon, small but unbroken. The galaxy had learned a truth that would echo across worlds and centuries. Humans do not conquer with fire, they do not command with force, and they do not survive through fear. Humans conquer with courage. Humans awaken what is lost. Humans remember the bonds the stars forget. And Varkaval, the Ash Eternal, the fiercest dragon the galaxy had ever feared, had bowed. Not in submission. Not in weakness. But in recognition, in trust, and in the understanding that even the most terrifying being could be guided by the heart of a human. Alira looked up at the dragon and whispered one last time. "We remember. Together." And in that moment the galaxy understood.